All right. I think it's about that time. I am declaring us live. PGA Wednesday night. Live before lock. Here we go. Ben Rasa, Jason Rouslin, Workday Charity Open. Never said that before, but we'll do what we can. First things first. Mr. Rouslin, how we doing?
What's up, man? Yeah, the Workday. This is a new one, a new sponsor coming into play. But, I've been following their stock price, and trust me, they can certainly afford to sponsor this golf tournament with the last 3-6 months that they've had. It's been crazy. So looked up a little bit about Workday, trying to figure out what exactly they do. And I'm not too terribly sure. I know they're a tech company, but here they give us a pretty good field.
Not bad. Listen, I mean, we started out post-COVID with some monster major level fields.
Yeah, we did.
Last week, not a fan, just stupid. Well, I'm not going to go down the Rocket Mortgage wormhole, but I didn't like the field. I didn't like the course. We're back in business here. I like Muirfield Village. We're obviously going to dive into that. But before we do, two things. Chat, I see we're ready to go. If you can hit the like button, we need those likes, keeps the lights on and keeps the show going. And then the other thing that keeps the show going is our friends over at Super Draft.
Yeah, they sure do. And if you haven't played over at Super Draft, you got to try it out. The multiplier mode, they've got $3K to first place coming out this week. So check them out. The future of daily fantasy sports has arrived. Experience Super Draft's exclusive game mode multiplier, which we're going to do a segment on just of that at the end of the show. Say goodbye to salary restrictions and hello to lineup freedom. Use your fantasy sports knowledge or emotions, whichever one you like, to draft any player you want and build your very own dream team. Countless lineup possibilities like Morikawa, Spieth, and Cantlay all on the same team let you experience daily fantasy golf and sports the way you want to. Superdraft offers contests for PGA, NASCAR, MMA, soon to be NBA, MLB, and NFL, so you can enjoy the best of DFS all year round. Sign up for Superdraft using promo code Awesemo10. You get $10 free of your first deposit of 10 or more and $20 total free on your first of 100 or more. So go download in the App Store or play at superdraft.io. Superdraft, no limits and more winning. We like winning, don't we, Ben? And last week, even if you were all in on Bryson-Shambo like me, it definitely didn't guarantee a win, that's for sure.
No, I had a multitude of problems. I saw you were super heavy on Bryson, just couldn't connect the dots under him, but it was an interesting week. I did like how it's set up. It was just Scotty Scheffler killed me. That's ultimately what did it in, but we're going to go right back to him. I'll let you know in due time.
Oh, yeah. That was going to be one of my big questions this week.
We're getting into Scotty Scheffler danger zone, but you want to get into it? We've got, so obviously we always have waves. The other two, though, weather maybe creeping up, no withdrawals, though. So let's dive into it. What do you see right off the top?
Yeah, so no withdrawals. Our first time in, 3 or 4 weeks where we haven't had one, but I say that with a but. The PGA Tour has decided that they're going to put all the people that tested positive for COVID-19 in the exact same group going off tomorrow. Explain that one to me, because that one's shocking to me. Either it's brilliant or totally insane.
Yeah, this might be like a mega mind genius move by the tour, and I don't understand. More likely than not, it's just a terrible idea. Maybe I don't understand exactly what's going on, but from like what I gather, what happens if they make the weekend?
Yeah, and they're still testing positive too. As the chat just mentioned, at least that's what the memo sent out. So I'm really confused at what's going on here. I think I might.
Can they play with other players?
See, that's what the memo doesn't really specify. It just says that they're allowed to play based on the labor rules because they've had at least 2 negative tests or something like that. It's very weird. It was just sent out like an hour and a half ago, so we're still disseminating this. Bottom line is, I'm probably not going to play those guys this week because I don't know what's going to happen come the weekend if they make it through.
Same. I didn't really – the one good thing for me is just in a vacuum, I didn't really like those plays anyway, so it just made that decision a little easier for me.
And we do like Dylan Fratelli on the show. Don't get me wrong. We do from time to time at least like him. So, all right, let's break down the weather a little bit. We'll talk about that, and then we'll go into waves. So, for the first 4 weeks, we've had basically no edge, maybe a half a stroke on one of the days. But now it looks like we're going to get some weather coming in Friday, probably around noon, and it's going to stay all the way through Saturday morning. So it looks like the wind is going to be up around 20 to 25 miles an hour on the gust for the Friday afternoon, guys. So does that bring us to a point where we finally need to look at a weather edge, or what are you doing with it?
So there's two things, and we haven't really had to talk about this, but one of the things, we get all the time is there a weather edge? And people want to know like what to do with it. The question is not just, is there a weather edge, is can we identify it? Because there may be a split, but if we don't know where it's going to be, that's not really useful. So to me, yes, there is a chance that PM AM turns out to be the better of it, but there's also a chance that we see a delay over the first 2 days. And if there's a delay for, inclement weather, that changes everything. So ultimately, even though I think weather could play a factor, I'm playing it pretty straight up. I didn't alter lineups. I have a couple tee time stacks, but I do that normally. So no difference for me.
So here's the thing is that before I even went to go build lineups and do my core, just so happened that I liked a few more guys in the afternoon wave. Now, granted, Jordan Spieth and Patrick Cantlay are in that wave, so it's kind of easy for that to happen. But I was trending towards fading a lot of the guys up top because I just believe, except for Cantlay, because I don't believe any of them are better than Cantlay right now. I think it showed a couple of weeks ago. Cantlay came out in his first start in 4 or 5 months, after the surgery. And, for the most part, his putting maybe kept him alive a little bit, but he looked pretty good. So with that being said, I'm leveraging it in my high dollar stuff. And the reason primarily for that is because I just happen to like more guys in that wave. And then I said, okay, well, if I can get a stroke from the weather as well, I just got to take it and leverage it. However, in my MME builds, as you and I have kind of done over these past couple of years that we've been doing this, we found that the weather edge, yeah, sure, it can definitely play out in showdown, right? I mean, we know that we can get an edge in showdown in certain places. But over the 4 days, the best golfer that week is still going to win, whether he was in the morning wave or the afternoon wave. We've got plenty of situations where a guy has come in the top 5 or 10 and was in the bad weather wave to start. So you can't eliminate the players, but in a week like this that it looks pretty clear, again, we're betting on a variable in the most variable DFS sport there is. So understand that if you're betting on another variable, you're adding a total another layer of what do we call it? Variance. Sorry. And sometimes you just don't want to do that.
No, I'm right with you. I will say, chat, we got a super chat. We really appreciate that from Benny Mack. We're going to get to these guys, but I'll get to them right now. Homa or Bud Cauley? For me, it's Bud Cauley. I like them both, though, but we really appreciate the donation, my man. Good luck to you this week.
Yeah. Okay. So, yeah, Homa or Bud, really quick off the top. Homa has been very, very anxiety-ridden for me watching him, so I'd probably pick Bud Cauley because he had a chance to make the cut a couple of weeks ago when he withdrew due to COVID, abundance of caution. So I'm going to pick Bud. Will Cam Champ kill me? If he kills you, he's going to kill me, so we're in the same boat there, Benny.
But I'll be alive.
Yeah. So thanks for that, of course, Benny Mac. Appreciate it. We'll take those anytime, and you're welcome for the Wolf call. Hopefully he helped you out more than he helped me out. That's for sure.
Yeah, me too. All right.
Yeah, let's go to the waves. Let's break down a couple of players that people may want to focus on. First round lead for the Thursday morning guys, and then maybe for that PMA AM stack. Going off first, Hideki Matsuyama and Nick Taylor were teamed up with Dylan Fratelli, but now Dylan Fratelli's not in that group. So it looks like maybe just Nick Taylor, Hideki Matsuyama. Victor Hovland, Gary Woodland, John Rahm is the first time of that you're going to get to see on TV. And then Justin Rose, Brooks Koepka, Jason Day. So got some heavy hitters going out. The guys that I just mentioned, 4 of the top 6 on the board are going out real early. Does that make you come off of them or does not change your mind at all?
No, I feel pretty comfortable. I think that I wouldn't be stunned to see a big name go out early and hang a number. No doubt. I think it'll be out there. And it's not just one group. You just mentioned there's 3-4 power groups going out. And then you've got the Oosties of the world and some quality players right behind them in that wave. I definitely found it easier to build with AM stacks than PM stacks. Just the way my player pool fell. I don't think it means anything, but there's a multitude of options in that first round leader market if you want to target that first wave.
Yep, there sure is. I had a couple of more names. The Xander Schauffele. So 5 of the top 6 actually are going off before 8 o'clock tomorrow morning. So interesting there. Justin Rose, Billy Horschel also going. So the PM waves, it's going to be pretty clear how I ended up on a lot of these stacks. But for the featured groups, we've got Patrick Reed, Ricky Fowler, Matthew Wolfe, and then Patrick Cantlay, Phil Mickelson, Jordan Spieth, a couple other guys, Sung J M, Max Homa, Troy Merritt, Ian Poulter, Cam Champ, Lashley, and Bradley going off in the afternoon. So of those guys, any group stick out, any tee time stick out, or maybe a few that I didn't mention?
Yeah, I mean, it's not a full tee time because I don't like Wolfe, but I like Reed and Fowler quite a bit. They are playing together. I actually think specifically those two would play well together possibly. Hopefully they can get the putters going. Reed, bad miscut last week. Ricky was better, but still, I mean, he ultimately was good, and we'll get into him more. Still flirts with the cut for no reason on Friday. Like, I don't have enough mental energy to waste it when you're just don't do that, Ricky. But other than that, like I said, I leaned more to the AM just looking at the way it unfolded.
Yep, I think it makes sense. It does seem like the stronger part of the field is in that AM wave, which, again, so it's feast or famine, right? If you end up fading him and it works, you could end up above the grain because there's a ton of ownership there. And, of course, if you end up fading it and nothing comes to fruition, you're going to be behind the eight ball with how much ownership is already going to be there. So, all right, let's go into the course a little bit. In the course changes, how it's going to affect the scoring as we move down our topics. Pretty clear. I mean, I'm sure that most people listening have heard, but they're just going to make the rough shorter and the green speed slower, which is going to bring up the scores. It's going to bring down the cut line probably to -3 or -4, winning score maybe approaching -20. Something similar, honestly, to last week. I know we have the green complexes around here to definitely keep it a little bit more tame than last week maybe. But what do you make of the changes? I know maybe you don't look at course history too much. Are you completely throwing it out now because it's a different course, or do you think a lot of it still applies?
I think a lot of it still applies. There's certainly going to be differences between what we see this week and next week, but I kind of used it as a starting point, and then I made my own determinations on it. So I'm not going to go crazy with it. I do think there is something to seeing guys who played well at Memorial historically, though. I'm not saying the course isn't important, and I'm not saying we're not going to get to it. But we did, and we teased this a little on Twitter. We do have a special announcement to make, and it's about that time. I guess I'll just get it right now. Chat, if you watch the morning show with me, Dave Lochran, and Josh Engelman, you know about flash sales. We do them occasionally, and we are going to do one right now. So we have a flash sale starting right now. It's only going to be for 15 minutes. So time to get in is right now. Promo code of Workday. Promo code Workday, and you are going to get half off of a week of PGA. So if you haven't been inside the ropes, you want to try it out, this is literally the best time to do it. Get in. There's still plenty of time. You can get our ownership projections, all the tools from Alex himself, obviously the premium content articles, everything, ownership, projections, the things that we use right behind that wall. Promo code Workday, 15-minute window. Go in, check it out. Let us know what you think. Jason, anything to add to that? Pretty exciting. We like to do this occasionally, give back.
We sure do. I mean, we've got so much on the inside, especially on Wednesday nights. You know, I'm normally making lineups after the show here. So if you're a late night grinder, you can find me in the chat coming around 11:30, 12 o'clock, dropping some knowledge that sometimes screws people and sometimes helps people. But that's the fun of it, I guess, with it. So with that being said, let's try and help the people that are here. We're going to talk about Cantlay, Thomas, and more of the stars returning to the course, as last week we only really had Bryson-Shambo and Webb Simpson. But it's interesting this week because 11-1 is our top price in Justin Thomas and 10,000 of Hideki Matsuyama. So we don't have the disparity like we did last week with Bryson-Shambo all the way at 11-7. I think that brings more parity, and we're going to have pretty much spread even ownership. Is that what you're seeing? Do you agree? Or do you think it starts to maybe favor one way over the other, maybe leaning Cantlay because of the weather edge, or what do you think?
I think it'll be pretty spread out just because there's a multitude of options. And even though it's interesting, so like the guys at the extreme top, when I talk about JT and Rahm, they're not playing perfectly. Rahm was a little rusty. JT certainly didn't have it last time we saw him. Then you get to Cantlay and Brooks. Then you get to Xander and there's just too many options, I think, for anyone to get crazy. Like last week, everybody knew Bryson was the best player. I'm not saying everyone knew he was going to win, but they knew he was the best. Here you have so many different options. I think it spreads out more than most, which gives you options, yet it's a little dicey because you're not going to be able to take everyone.
Yeah, that's for sure. You can't always fit everybody in, especially if you're only doing a couple of lineups. If you had to pick one to play to start your lineup, you're doing one lineup, would you totally skip this range? Or would you pick one of these guys to start it?
I mean, I'd like to go, if I could start with anyone, it'd be one of two guys. I'd either use Rahm if I was going all the way up. I think he's the sneakiest. I know he hasn't been great, but I like this course for him specifically. Or I go all the way to Becky. I like Becky a lot last week. Started slow, heated up, couldn't get the putter going. Then if anyone in chat or what he did on Sunday on that par 5, it looked like he putted into the water. That's not the answer, Decky. So I liked where his game is at. I think he's a former winner at Muirfield Village. Yep. I mean, how can you not like Decky in this spot?
Yeah, and if you dig into Decky's stats, he's actually superb around the green normally too. So that was just a really bad blip. Honestly, though, if he used his putter, it would actually make a lot more sense as to why it ended up in the water, because typically he is very good around the green, like I said. So before we move on, this is more of a hot topic than it is dealing with this week, but let's just bring it up real quick. Brooks Koepka versus Bryson-Shambo is turning into a really good content maker and maybe driver of ratings on the PGA Tour. But if you guys haven't seen it and you're watching the show, Brooks Koepka tweeted out a GIF of Kenny Powers, and now take this with a grain of salt. This is Kenny Powers, right? That was basically like, I forgot what it said, something of faces steroid allegations, and he goes and grabs the camera and throws it down. So obviously Brooks is insinuating that Bryson is on steroids and that he would have a roid rage if a cameraman came up and talked to him about it, which kind of happened. First, what do you make of that little scenario? And second, do you see any correlation like I do between the amount of chirping that Koepka does and his play being there and following?
So I don't make much of it. Brooks is a smart guy. He definitely toes the line of like he's joking, but he's also not exactly joking. And I do think he's the type of guy. I mean, when Brooks is at his very best, he's very arrogant. When he was at the height of his powers, and I was certainly fading him, he was basically saying like majors are super easy because half the people don't know what they're doing, and I do. And then watch. And he would go out, he'd shoot like 6 under in the first round, and he would hold on. Then he got hurt. His confidence was a little shattered, hasn't been as chirpy. So I do think if he gets his swagger back, he's going to be dangerous. I just have trouble gauging where he's at. I mean, do you like him this week? Are you going over on him, or are you just kind of indifferent?
I like to use him in the single entry and limited entry stuff because I believe his ownership is a pretty decent discount to what it's going to be in the Millie Maker. I just think that people skip right over him at 10,400 with JT and Rahm and the alike in the field. Where his game is, I've seen the chirping really turn up. He's been going in with Faldo now for a couple of weeks. He clearly made a statement with the tweet at Bryson. So, I'm not trying to draw this. It's not going to relate specifically to his play. I'm not going to say that. But what I will say is he typically only talks when his play is going to back it up so that he doesn't look like a fool, because he hates looking like a fool. We know that he hates looking like a fool. I like him. I like him a bit this week. I'm not going to lie. I think I like him over Rahm specifically. I don't think Rahm's been playing well enough for me to pick him over Koepka this week, at least. JT's been feast or famine. I mean, he's missed 2 cuts and then he's made 3 top 10s. So he's a GPP play for me only this week on Thomas. All right, you want to go into the next section here?
Let's do it.
Okay, let's go into the mid-price, the chalk and the pivots. We've got a few of them this week. We'll start off with Viktor Hovland, the ball striking god, the machine. In like 93% of his starts, like 14 of 15 or something crazy like that, he's gained at least 1 stroke ball striking. So he's insane, but he's still expensive and he's still getting good ownership. So let's start with Hovland. What do you do with him first? I'm going to guess that you're going to fade him.
I am going to fade him. Listen, do I ever feel super confident about fading a really good player? Not super confident, but sometimes I feel pretty damn good. This is a little murkier. Like Hovland's ball striking is truly elite. I'm not banking on him regressing there. What I am banking on is this course causing him a little more, trouble around the greens. And can I quantify this? No, but this is the 5th straight week he's playing and he's made every cut. There's a couple other guys, Reed in particular, he's playing 5 straight weeks, but he missed a couple cuts. He's also Reed and he plays all the time. That's a lot. He's driving to all these courses. I'm not saying that he's going to hit the wall, but I do think it's something. So I think this is with a very popular Viktor Hovland. I like Rose and the other guys in that neighboring 9K range in the similar multiplier over on Superdraft. I found myself going elsewhere this week.
Yeah, 4 top 25s too. Not just made every cut, but every single cut in the top 25. It's been very good. However, I do feel like he ran into a stream of courses where the greens were right in front of him. This will be a good test. I'm excited to see how he competes. I'm in your camp, though. I guess I would rather probably go down to maybe like a Mark Leishman in that range. I mean, obviously, I would rather play Jordan Spieth, but I'm a sick guy.
Yeah, you are.
Yeah, so we'll say Mark Leishman because that seems a little bit more viable to the rest of the folk here, who has been very good with his approaches as well. Much better on and around the green than Hovland has shown us. So I'm excited to see what he can do. If he hits all 18 greens every day, it's not going to matter, right? He'll have a chance to come in the top 15 again. But when he misses those greens, I think that'll hold him back from a top 10 this weekend. He's a top 10 price, so he's got to be there. You mentioned Justin Rose. Patrick Reed and Justin Rose both coming off of missed cuts. Both come down in price a little bit from where they were after their miscut. Are you going back to both or either or neither?
Yeah, going back to both. Listen, these are guys that you have a ton of data on. You know, it happens. Like I said, 65 in ties is not easy. Rose was really cruising. I thought he found something, then hit a wall. Reed has just been sloppy. A little more worried about where his game is at overall, but it's still Patrick Reed. In between them, you have a sandwich of you have Ricky, and then you have Morikawa, who I think is maybe the most interesting of anyone. You know, like I said this on yesterday's show, the guy, you know, he misses a cut finally. Now he's like old news. Everyone's just, oh yeah, I remember him. Like he's still an elite ball striker. The ownership will not be even close to what it was had he just made the cut and kept that streak alive. So if you want to, I don't want to say a dark horse, but a different type of play, you could go there. For me, of course, Ricky is there, and I feel very confident he's going to play well again.
Yeah, so we'll talk about Ricky for a second here. I have the Ricky and Jordan combined in a thing here, and asking you, are they back? And we know they're not back to where they were, obviously, right? You know, we've seen these guys at the top leaderboards, but believe it or not, you know, Jordan's only missed 1 cut in his last 8 events. Ricky's missed 4, though, so I'm a little concerned. But what I saw last week was that he's done with the cross-handed putter. A reporter actually asked him about it, which is great. We don't normally typically hear golf reporters asking the exact questions that we want to hear, but they did with Ricky this past week for me. And he specifically said he does it at parts of his career when he feels like things are getting a little off the rails with the putter, and it normally corrects within a week or two. Well, he showed last week he went out and gained strokes putting again, and he was putting regular. He wasn't putting left-hand low. So that has me excited that Ricky is at least coming around a little bit. I think Ricky playing good is very good for the game of golf. He's super marketable. So I'll always root for him in that regard. And I think he does set up well this week for this course. It seems like based on last week, his game is coming around.
I feel good about it. And just, we had a good question from Chad, friend of the show, John Jefferson, was saying, Reed, it doesn't look good. And I get if you dig in, it doesn't. But the one thing with him, he's not bleeding anywhere severely. Like it's kind of, I always call it whack-a-mole. He gains with the putter, he loses with the irons. He gains with the irons, he loses with the short game. You can't, but when you have it like that, all it takes is the puzzle pieces to fall in, and then he explodes. If a guy like Hovland is going to game with the ball striking and probably lose around the green and with the putter. It's almost rinse and repeat. To me, that's more predictable. Whereas with Reed, it's more boom bust. And that's why I'm getting to him still. I'm embracing the variance.
I totally understand it. And for me, so I went and checked why is Reed playing bad? What's he doing? He left himself in a ton of bad spots over the first 2 days last week, a ton of short-sided stuff. So it's going to look worse on his around the green game because when you short-side yourself, you have no opportunity to gain strokes around the green, which has you inside of a certain feet after you hit the shot. So if he's short-siding himself and giving himself no opportunity to put the ball within 20 feet of the hole, he's going to lose strokes, whether it was a good shot or not. It's regardless of the fact. And Doc Rebner was on an industry podcast this week kind of talking about how the stats don't show stuff like that. They just show what the result was rather than what caused the result. So I'm at 8,800. I'm now back interested in Patrick Reed. 10-7 or 10-5. I just will never play him at that price because he's got a win to do it. And I'd rather play him at 8,800 with that same win equity. So that's my thought on Patrick. So before we go on, I saw a couple of questions about Matt Kuchar. I'm going to loop Sungjae Im in with him as well. Neither has looked impressive since the return. They both made a couple of cuts. Sungjae's missed one. I'm grouping them together because they're both about 14 or 15%. Do you like either over the other, or do you like neither?
Listen, I think both make sense. They're guys that grind. They're pretty safe ultimately, but I didn't find myself gravitating towards them a ton. We just talked about a bunch of guys above them that or at least I like. Then you've got Leishman right there as well. You've got, not that I'm just going to rattle off some names. I'm not saying I'm in love with them, but you've got Neiman, Woodland, Fitzy, Hadwin. These are options that, to me, give you a little more boom bust in certain areas. I kind of hope I can just skirt by with not a ton of those guys and not get burned.
Yeah, let's move on to some of those guys. In our next segment called the Missed Cuts and Missed Price segment, we've got a bunch coming off missed cuts now. A couple of guys I just mentioned. Rose, Reed, Woodland, Fitzpatrick, Morikawa, and Scotty Scheffler. All big names, all coming off of missed cuts.
Sounds like my lineups.
I know, right? I mean, last week.
I think I played all 6 of them at one point. Just destruction.
Are any 6? I mean, so we'd already talked about Rose and Reed, so we can X them. How about Woodland, Fitzpatrick, Morikawa, or Scheffler? We mentioned at the top, Scheffler might be back in, so we can start there, I guess.
Yeah. So listen, I've said this and I don't know. I really like Scheffler last week. He goes out and he shoots 79 on a miniature golf course. So I just assumed after Thursday that he must be hurt. I figured he was going to withdraw. There's something wrong. He didn't withdraw. He shot bogey-free 65 on Friday, 7 under. Now he missed the cut by a mile.
Yeah.
But as you just said, I mean, how does that not pull you back in? Clearly he's all right. Just didn't have it for whatever reason. I went right back. 7,800, feel good. Multiplier on Superdraft, get a little upside in there. Listen, this is a guy that he can score. He can take apart par 5s. Clearly, if he loses it, it can unravel. We saw that last week, but I'm not going to let literally 18 holes deter me.
So I like this spot a lot better. I like 7,800. I like less than 10% ownership. I like coming off a 65 rather than a 9,000 coming off a missed cut at the Travelers, 15%. I like this spot much better. Even if he doesn't make the cut, I still think it's a much better spot to play Scheffler this week. Morikawa, you kind of mentioned, I think he could be a true dark horse GPP if people don't play the weather and want to play Hovland over him now, which I totally agree with and understand. Seems like Morikawa could be a really decent Millie Maker kind of target.
Yeah, Morikawa is a guy that I've been perpetually under on. And this is the first time I'm not saying I'm going to jam him because I just like too many other guys, but this is interesting. He's had some adversity. He wasn't good at Heritage and he missed the cut at Travelers, gets a little break. I don't think there's an overarching problem with his irons. And if there's not, I think Muirfield Village is a great course for him. So you could come back and kind of buy early on him in a way and start a new streak with a bang because he's sandwiched between Ricky and Hovland.
Yep, I like that. I had a couple questions actually just now about the next guy on my list, Matty Fitzpatrick, coming off his first missed cut in quite a while. And he's got Jim Bones Mackay, tomato, I don't know, on the bag this week. So that's an interesting matchup. Bones obviously was Phil Mickelson's caddy, not Tim Mickelson, who is now Phil Mickelson's caddy. Do you like that marriage, and do you like the spot here for Fitzpatrick?
I do. Fitzy's someone, again, he had a long cut streak, missed it. It happens. I like him more in a course like this where you don't need – the winning score is not going to be 30 under style where it's like, oh, my guy only shot 65, no bueno. So he can go out here. He's going to gain strokes off the tee most likely, but it won't be with distance, which is totally fine. He's not long, but he's great with long irons, which means his par, and you see it, his par 5 scoring is fine. He can excel there, take them apart. The question with him is, I don't think this is a big deal, but looking at the splits, he's more of a Bermuda guy on the greens. I don't read that much into it. I think Fitzy's just fine here.
Yeah, I honestly, I try not to look at those green.
I don't, and then I get sucked in like a donkey, but yeah. I'm like, oh my God. Well, I can't. He's a POA specialist. Like that matters. It means nothing, but.
If you're a good putter, you're a good putter. In fact, Alex and I were talking about that earlier on one of our little videos there. Next guy up, actually had a few guys that just asked about it. Adam Hadwin. Looked like we had a guy that never trusted him. Ted in our chat here hasn't trusted him. And Joey Corman in the chat, our guy behind one of the guys behind the glass, says, is that a time to jump off of him because other people are jumping on? Dan, what's your take on Adam Hadwin this week? I don't have a great finish last week by him.
He really did. He surged. I think it was overinflated. I'm not going to lie. He came in fourth. I didn't think he played that well, but he was solid. He's gained with the putter basically for months now. He's going to continue to do that. You're going to need him to do that.
Yep.
I don't have a super strong take. I think it's fine. To me, I'd rather play Fitzy if I had to pick one down there. And then you do have guys like Woodland and Neiman who are more aggressive, certainly drivers of the ball than a guy like Hadwin.
All right, so I may be a little crazy, but I'm actually going to the guy that you didn't mention in this range that is up next on my list, Matt Wolfe, $8,100, $1,300 more expensive. But my thought is that we've been waiting to see the consistency from him for a year, right? He won the 3M, basically did nothing, non-existent for a year, made a cut, here and there. Don't get me wrong, he definitely made a couple of paychecks, but he didn't pay any of us off if we rostered him on DFS until last week when he finally broke through. Are we set up for another cycle like last time where he's just going to disappear again until he needs to play well or until it's July 4th again like it was last year? Or are we maybe set up for him to start to look a little bit like he did in college, beating Morikawa and Hovland for the better part of 50% of the time? He would beat one of them.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I thought that I was pretty impressed with him, even though I don't want to say he gave it away. On the back nine there, he had a lot of putts that just missed. Bryson took it, but Wolfe didn't crumble that badly. I don't love the spot for him. I'm interested to see what he does, to be honest. He gained 6 strokes putting last week. I want to see how it was around the green. It's never good. I don't know if it'll be stressed here. I'm going to take a wait and see. You get the price bump. He's going to be interesting. I don't think he'll be nearly that popular considering he was the runner-up. Usually those guys build in terms of cumulative ownership, but I think the price bump will deter people. I'm not there. Maybe he will flip a page and we're going to see a more consistent, he made some cuts. Like you said, he strung them along. But there's a lot of meaningless finishes, 42nd, 51st. That does nothing when you're talking about an 8K guy.
Yeah, so I guess what I'm playing for is I know I'm getting low ownership, right? I know I'm getting 5% maybe this week, and I'm hoping that we got consistency. I could be totally wrong. We could be heading for another 45th or a missed cut this week. But I felt like a good leverage spot here with a guy that I know that at his best can definitely go out and compete with the best of them.
Oh, no doubt. Talent's there.
So now we just need to get the consistency, and I think he will be a perennial 8K guy rather than a 6K guy. One last guy I want to talk about up here. Bubba Watson has looked great off the tee, but terrible everywhere else. I'm really not interested, but I thought I'd pass it to you.
I want to be interested, and I looked for reasons. Can you play Bubba? I think yes, of course. You could put him with some aggressive drivers of the ball and see what happens. But the rest of his game is pretty poor right now. And this is really not a spot where I think you can just mash it off the tee and get away with it. You need to do more than that. So I really don't have much to say on Bubba. It's not someone that, it's not like he hasn't had success at Memorial and he can't do it, but you can't just have success at Memorial gaining 6 strokes off the tee and doing nothing else. That's not going to work.
No, it's not. Just not here. Some other courses it might, but
definitely not here.
Not here. All right, let's move on to one of our favorite segments, Make the Cut segment, where we do a little rapid fire. We start to go down the list. And, of course, if we've missed anybody above that you really want to know about, definitely let us know. If you're talking about guys that might be below 8,000, we're probably going to get to them. So if you've asked questions, likely you're about to hear them coming up here in a second. But before we do, I want to turn everybody's attention real quickly over to our Twitter handle at Awesemo_com. And this week, check out the pinned tweet, and you're going to get a chance to win an Awesemo Plus monthly pass. This gives you access to all the premium content, tools, projections on Awesemo.com for 30 days. All you have to do is like the tweet, subscribe to the Awesemo podcast channel, and leave a 5-star review with your Awesemo username or Twitter handle included. good luck. We'll be doing that drawing here in a little bit. And so that gets you access to all of what we got. PGA, NASCAR, LOL,
got it all.
Rocket League. I mean, they've got it all now. Esports, that's what I was thinking. Sorry, esports. And then, of course, MLB and NBA coming back at the end of the month. So you're going to get a little bit with that. So, all right, let's move on.
Here we go.
Make the cut. First guy I'm going to ask you, Justin Thomas.
Yeah, he's going to be just fine. I don't particularly like him this week, but JT is quite good. If you don't think he's going to make the cut, head to your sports book and place that wager. You get some big plus money if you think he misses.
Yeah, I was going to say that's probably like plus 350 if I'm not mistaken on a JT missed cut. So if you're going to go with that angle that he's not a good win player, and he's not, maybe the win kicks up and he does miss. Probably not going to happen. But okay, now into to maybe the more realistic guys question. Young Han, he made some waves in the Twitter world. A hilarious parody song put out by a guy, Sam_golf, if you're looking at it. And Ben-An took it great. He put it in his wedges. But above all that, is he a good play this week?
I think so. I know the results have not been great. A 60 at the miscut and a 46th. But this is a different course. He's had a little break here, has some success at Memorial. And listen, can these things change? But for Ben-An, I think you would acknowledge this is pretty crazy. He has gained strokes putting all 4 times he's played Memorial. And for a guy that never gains, maybe he just likes these greens.
It's possible, and we know that stuff exists. So let's also talk about his stats a little bit, because I was really intrigued when I took a look. So first week out, he blew up with the putter. Wasn't good on his approaches and mediocre. And then next week, he really blew up with the putter, losing 6 strokes over the first 2 rounds. And the ball striking wasn't there either. However, 2 weeks ago at the Travelers, the ball striking came back to his normal baseline. The putter was kind of there as well. The around the green wasn't great, but still a good finish. I like the fact that I saw the ball striking come back. We know you chronicled it way better than me about how good he is around the green. So I think once we see the 2 ball striking stats come back like we did 2 weeks ago, we know he's good around the green. All we need to do is get him through to Saturday, and he can put up a bunch of points if he can get hot. The fact that he loves these greens and is 4 for 4 in strokes gained putting at this course. If you go look at his log, you're not going to be able to find that even close to anywhere else on any of his starts. So I'm back in on Ben-An. He better make the weekend. So I hope that answers the question. Louis Oosthuizen is next. Same price.
Yeah, Usti, I mean, I feel less confident about him making the weekend, but he's still in the player pool just because he's Usti, and you don't know where it can come from, can get with the ball strike, can get with the long irons. The stats are all over the place, as they always are.
He's honestly, I think I'd just rather save him for majors when I know he really cares at this stage of his career. It seems like a better play. It just seems like he's, whether he's bringing his mattress with him or not, it seems like he's not really caring too much. Stats kind of showcase that. So, does he make the weekend? Yeah, I'm going to give him the weekend. I think he's crafty enough around the green to get another paycheck, I guess. Scotty Scheffler, I think both of you and I think he's going to make the cut because we're playing him, it sounds like. We're not mistaken there, correct?
No, not at all. I think he bounces back nicely. Obviously, I worry about him a little around the greens, but if he's pure with his irons, as he should be, he'll be just fine.
Had a question in here. Does Spieth make, cut, or contend? He's in a very important lineup.
I mean, I have more interest in Spieth this week than I have in months, and I still have 0%. So that's your area of expertise.
I love it. Next one, exactly on my list. They must have known. They must be following along or have our run sheet, wherever it is. Colin Roberts asks about Kevin Streelman coming off of a top 5, has some really good course history here.
He does. So I don't mind Streelman in a vacuum in the sense that he sets up well. He's playing well. He's got good course history. I just don't love the price and where he's sandwiched. There's too many guys for me. Dahmen and the guys we just talked about at 79. I think he'll be just fine, but ultimately I didn't get there much.
I didn't either. I don't know if it's just the price and seeing him near like Cam Champ and the guys that, been on that I like a little bit more. Phil Mickelson, I asked you last time if he'd make it. We both said we thought he would, and he did. I'm out this week.
I'm going to say no. You can't be, I think this is going to be a drastic switch. Last week, it was like, oh, haha, I hit it 60 yards left. Now my birdie, my approach shot is just like weird looking. If you do that here, you're done. Like, you're not going to be able to recover like you could at some of the courses we've seen. So I don't think so with Phil.
I don't think so either.
Yeah.
Phil Damon, you just brought him up. I think he makes the cut this week. I had a nice week off. It looks like his game is in good form.
He better make the cut. Pure dominant stroking the irons like you wouldn't believe, gaining rapidly with the approach. Just do that and he'll be fine. I think he makes the weekend relatively easily.
Yeah, I think so too. Cam Champ had a weird week last week. No prep, no nothing, 12th place.
Hey,
did it with his putter and his driver.
I don't know what to make of him. The finishes have been great. The form has been great. It's such an odd profile, like you mentioned, off the tee and putting, no irons, no around the green. He's going to get he's going to get the par fives to attack. And you do that. We saw on Sunday, he eagled for a streak, went crazy low. I think he'll be all right. Just again, not my favorite play in that range.
Yeah, man, I think the rough length for me makes me more excited about him this week than next week when they expect it to grow out another 2 inches or so. I just feel like he might be able to pull out that 370-yard drive a little bit more this week and have it matter less if he misses than next week. So I'm going to take my ownership and hopefully get a good week out of him this week and fade him next one. That's kind of my hope. I hope that nobody jumps on or like 5 to 10 jump on this week and he goes up to 20 next week. That's crossing my fingers on. Just had a question on who was next on my list. Who did I see it? Jason Kokrak. Two of them asked about Jason Kokrak, and he's maybe a couple down my list, but we'll ask about him now.
Yeah, I think Kokrak is someone who can benefit if the course plays more to an off-the-tee strength like Champ, like Rahm, like some of these, even Bubba to an extent. I think that's fine. If it doesn't become that and it plays truer to a second shot course, I don't think it's the greatest fit for Kokrak.
Cory Connors, couple of questions. Couple of people just said, go Connors over Cam Champ. Connors, man, all he has, it seems like, is his ball striking, which is a good thing to have. But I don't think he can compete here because you need a short game, and I don't know that he's got enough to do it here.
He's true. Like, he is an enigma to me. He's such a pure ball striker. He has no semblance of around the green. But he's so good with the irons that sometimes he can mask it for a while. He just doesn't miss greens. I don't think he can get away with that too well here. He's in my player pool, but again, not a priority.
Ian Poulter and Jason Day.
Oh, God. Poulter's
home game, Jason Day, I should say.
Yeah, Poulter's completely fine. I think he's safe, playing well, can still attack the par fives. Jason Day, I mean, he's missing cuts. He wasn't even good here when he was at the height of his powers. But again, I consider him in my player pool just because he's Jason Day. And that means something to me. There's safer options, though, if you're looking for safety.
So his approaches were bad, right? And they've actually ticked up. He should have made the cut last week. He had a 9-footer on 18 for his 9th hole. He actually had a bunch of more putts that he missed, and he's normally one of the best putters. I'm more into Jason Day than I have been the last 4 weeks this week. So I think he's going to get through. Ian Poulter, I knew he was crafty around the green, so I think maybe we get another middling finish out of him, maybe a 35th or 40th, somewhere in that range.
Cash play to me.
Yeah, that's a great call, especially at 7,500 where he's priced. I would be looking at Poulter in cash. I wouldn't be looking at Poulter in this course with this type of field for a top. I'm looking at the chat and somebody's talking about Disney World opening tomorrow with Jason Day, but luckily we're not in Orlando or anywhere close to it. So hopefully, Celia, we do not have to worry about that this week.
You never know.
You do never know, though. Maverick McNeely, top 8 last week, relied heavily on that flat stick. Does he make the weekend, or does the ball striking catch up to him this week?
I think he's got to be better. If he's going to make the weekend, he's going to have to strike it better. He saved himself last week with the putter heavily.
Mark Hubbard, who came in 15% owned last week, and Ryan Armour, who cost somebody $1,900,000 with his missed 3-footer. What do you think? Either of them make the weekend?
No. I'm saying this is the regression train is coming for these guys. Playing good, but especially Armour. I don't think he's keeping this up. Henley, Griot, and we're going to get to these guys. I'd much rather go to them.
Yeah, listen, I love Ryan Armour. I put out the tweet last week about how he stopped and chatted with my wife and I when we were at the TOC. I've got a great affinity for him, but he seems to be playing a little bit above his standard deviation. And, even if Ryan watches this, Ryan, I'm rooting for you every single week, my friend. But, it seems like you're playing a little bit above your baseline right now. Yes. Not going to lie. It looks great. So maybe I'll ride that out in some Millie Maker lineups. I think that, again, he doesn't get above 10% ownership. So I think that you can still get maybe a little leverage, but not quite a core play for me this week. A guy that's in that range that maybe you can pivot off of that a lot of people are talking. So maybe not too much of a pivot. Russell Henley. Does he make the weekend?
I think you better make the weekend. I will say I definitely like him here. I get it. He can crazy upside. His irons are on fire. There's significant. I want to be clear though. Russell Henley is the type of guy. If it goes bad off the tee, you're going to be in big trouble. This is not no plug and play by any stretch. It's just when you look at a guy he gained 8 strokes with his approach. He's a winner. This guy wins tournaments. He won his first tournament out at Sony many, many years ago. He's just kind of got that win equity. You got to consider him at very worst, certainly in my player pool. Okay.
Landfill Griffin.
I'm not there. I don't really have a strong take. He couldn't putt. He left some out there last week. Even though he did gain strokes putting, I thought he really could have excelled on Sunday. The finishes have been good, and I have no problem. I just think I can get away with a middling finish at best, and I don't get burned too many times.
I like him. He proved me well at the Sony this year. I mean, he helped me win pretty good that week. Looking at the stats, it looked like he pretty much gained everywhere. He's good with his short game, 7,400, maybe ownership going up a little bit. I do like him, I think, enough to be in my player pool this week. I think he gets through the weekend again as well. It looked like he really turned a corner. I think it was on, I want to say that Friday round where he missed the cut at RBC. It looked like he's really turned a corner. The stats have looked better. The finishes have looked better the last 2 weeks. So I think I'm in a little bit there. Cam Tringale, and Matt Wallace. Cam Tringale has been getting talked up a decent amount this week.
Yeah, I'm not really there. For me, it's a guy who, again, I see the approach numbers, but what I also see is he's lost off the tee in 7 consecutive events. I'm not saying you can't get it done without an off the tee game, but I think that sets you back pretty good here. So I'm not there. I would roll those shares to Henley, to Griot, certainly to Bud Cauley, who we already talked about.
Yeah. Does Griot make the cut?
Yes. Griot is starting to get it together.
Starting to turn? Okay.
He likes Memorial. Now, again, if he starts scrambling, it's over. But if he's so pure, he's like Cory Connors with the ball striking, I think he plays just fine.
Johnny Vegas has been very good off the tee. I love myself a little Johnny Vegas. I'm a little whisperer from time to time. 7,200 seems a little expensive, but he's been playing pretty good.
Yeah, you're much more dialed in with this guy than me. He's the opposite of what I just said. He's gaining off the tee in 7 straight tournaments. Not doing much of anything else, though. I don't mind it. I think he correlates, obviously, to someone like Cameron Champ. He's gaining off the tee and he's putting well. So if you think those two skill sets can combine for some big showings, I don't mind that in your player pool.
Did you mention Matt Wallace? Did you give a take if he makes the weekend for the second straight week?
Matt Wallace, I kind of just like him on easier tracks like last week. I'm not sure exactly where his game is at. Even the stats didn't bear it out, so I'm passing on him.
Okay. I've got a little. I think that the short game should be good enough to get him through to the weekend here. But the irons haven't been as bad, I guess, as they've been in. But coming down the stretch, I needed him to make a cut where I think at the Charles Schwab, and he didn't do it. So I haven't been on him. Looks like maybe I'm looking at Johnny Vegas. That's why I'm like, wait a minute, this doesn't look like Matt Wallace's tape. There's the Matt Wallace tape. Okay, I'm like, his irons have been pissed poor. Right, there we go. That's a little better. Lost like 7 at the RBC Heritage. Lost another 1.2 at the Travelers. That's a little bit better. Okay. Do I think he's going to make the weekend? Wallace, yes. Vegas, yes as well. How about Brendan Steele as we move down to 7,100? He's been pretty good this year. Does he see another weekend?
I'm going to say no, but he's someone that if you're looking at, you're going to get 1% ownership. No one's going to play him. He had a big showing at Travelers, and then you dig in, he gained 9 strokes putting. So I'm not sure that tells you that much. Sorry, Brendan.
I got to ask.
Please.
He killed me last week, and I knew he was going to. Right when I wrote his name on my worksheet, I knew he was going to screw me. Did he screw you too? And does he screw us again this week, or are we just not playing him?
Who are you talking about? Kyle Stanley?
Yeah, you got it. Yeah,
yeah, of course. Yeah, I should have. I don't even know why I asked again. It was just a given. Kyle Stanley was terrible last week. He really killed himself on Thursday, put himself in a hole where he couldn't really recover. I'm somewhat encouraged still, though, that he has a game that can translate here. He can attack longer par fours. He just needs to be straight out better. He didn't do anything well last week at Travelers. He did everything well. So I'm going to go back a little. I didn't need to force him in, though, and that's a good thing. Because last week, I was funneled to his spot. I was not funneled to flat 7 here.
Yeah, it's a tough spot. I'm not going to lie. All right. Let's see. Rory Sabbatini, yeah, he had a terrible miscut last week. Does he make it? Does he bounce back? And then Shane Lowry, same price, 7,400 for both of them.
I like Shane Lowry as a GPP play. He's won at Firestone. Not that I think that correlates too much, but I took some strands of that. I'm going to go there in tournaments, but that's about it.
All right, then we had a question from our Slack chat earlier that I think is a perfect time to bring this up. And I'm going to try to ask it the exact way that it was asked to us, although I'll probably mess it up. The question was, if you had to pick one guy between these two, Woo Woo, Brendan Woo, or the wise guy, Aaron Wise, who are you picking? And do either of them or both of them make the cut?
So, yeah, this is a perfect segue into our deep dives, and we'll give a hot take as well. I think actually both make the weekend. You know, Brendan Woo is someone that you've touted in the past, and he's shown some ability to make some cuts. Wise is the opposite right now. He's not playing well, but he's a winner on tour. I think people forget that this is a guy, he made the cut in all 4 majors. He can really play. Maybe not showing it right now, but I'm still holding on to that pedigree. And when we talk about these deep dives down here, there's not much else. I think Charles, maybe Matthew Neesmith is someone that kind of showed up for me, striking it really well. But you got to be pretty careful sub 7K.
You do. A couple of deep dive names for me. Actually, our Slack chat just asked a question about him, and he's again a big play for me. He was last week. He showed me enough last week to go back to him, and that's Sam Burns. Same price, 6,900. He was a birdie on 17 and par on 18 away from all rounds under 70 and a bogey-free round on Sunday. His around the green game has been super stellar since coming out of the break and kind of over the longer haul. So everything seems to be lining up here for Sam Burns. Does he interest you this week? And then the next guy, kind of in the same line, Luke List.
Yeah, so Luke List is another one who showed a little life. It's funny. He had a stretch there where he really learned how to scramble, and he's held on to that a bit. I like how his game translated. And Sam Burns, I mean, this is a sell of why you really should join the site behind the paywall. The way this question was phrased from Ryan W., just super sharp. Wish he was on Bermuda. I totally agree, but he gained around the green, and that is a weak part of his game, so I get it. What I'm a little worried about is he needs the ball striking to come back. It's great to be scrambling like a wild man, but we need Burns to not be making, he was saving miracle pars instead of making miracle birdies. So I don't mind it, but he needs to be sharper overall.
Yeah, that's a great call. He did make a bunch of 13-footers for par when I was watching.
I needed him too. It was
yeah, I did too. He was on my DeChambeau Wolfe team last week, the only one that cashed in the big dollars. So he was a big part. Again, I think going back to him here, I like the same setup, and I like the fact that he actually gained gained putting last week, and we're seeing similar green surfaces this week. So I like all those elements. All right, we covered Luke List. We're both in on Luke List this week. Nick Taylor, first week back. He's been absent the last month.
Where's he been?
What's going on with him? Did he have COVID? I mean, I hate to make rumors, but he's the tour winner at Pebble Beach earlier this year. Does he make the cut? I mean, we know nothing about him right now.
I have literally no idea where his game is at. To me, I have to wait and see. When half the tour was coming back, you had to take guys we haven't seen, but I've seen every other golfer a little, waiting and seeing to see where his game is at.
Me too. It's not like we're getting Patrick Cantlay here. It's not like we can rely on Taylor to come back and be, winning golf tournaments again. So,
all right, you want to get a little spicy?
Yeah, let's get a little spicy. I think it's a perfect time.
Okay.
We're on a pretty dang good run with this. Last week I was real close on both of them for myself. I had Bryson winning by 5. He only won by 3, and I had Matt Wolfe top 10, which ended up cashing. Week before that, you nailed yours. Did you nail yours last week? I forgot. Tell me about
it. I don't even know what it was, but there's almost nothing I could have said that would have been correct. I don't think I said anything useful for my hot take. But chat, we're going to redeem ourselves, at least try to right now. But before we do, one last pump up the likes. We got a lot of people in here. Let's do it. Let's get it over 200. Do some jangles. I'll go first. I've used this hot take before, but I'm going to go right back to it. I think that, again, I'm going to keep on going. He had to withdraw the other day as a precaution. I think that Bud Cauley's really takes strides here. He's shown the ability to handle Muirfield Village before. This is a good spot for him. I really expect him to play well here. I'm going to give him a top 10, and that would be a very impressive showing for 7,100.
It sure would. I like that. I think that's great hot take. All right, I got 2.
Okay. I like
first one
here. This is good.
Yeah, the first one is I'm going to Sam Burns. I think we're going to get the ball striking, so I got him in the top 10 this week. I think we're going to get that true upside. I think it's a better event with a little slower greens, less rough in the rough. I think we're going to get a top 10 out of him. My other one, it probably shouldn't be used for a hot take, but because it's not really hot takey enough. But I believe Keith Mitchell gets to the weekend.
Yeah, that's a minor lukewarm. That's all right. We don't need to get
lukewarm. He's like plus 400. Can you believe that? I mean, this is a guy that won a golf tournament a year and a half ago.
Yeah, I mean, listen, he literally almost killed me. That week, that was too much. Him and Molinari. We're gonna have to do a separate show on where Molinari is.
Yeah. Did you see the post that he put out?
He's moving, right?
They're moving to Cali, yeah.
Moving to Cali.
And Rory McIlroy coming out and blasting basically both Molinari and Fleetwood, which is interesting. One other quick question, because he's actually been brought up a couple of times before we give the last couple of minutes here to our Super Draft Multiplier segment. In fact, why don't we talk about him in the Super Draft Multiplier segment? It's Henrik Norlander. He's had a ridiculously good week ball striking. I know his approaches were out of control last week. It looks like it seems a lot of people are going to him in that low price range. And, when we look at the multiplier on Super Draft here. Oh, actually, I've got one on Super Draft for you that you're going to love.
Okay.
I'm trying to find where's Norlander on Super Draft.
Let's take a look. Where is the Swede?
There's this. There's
1.4x.
So if you want to use him, that's where I would. I think his ownership could creep up in the $100, the single entry type stuff, because a lot of people are liking the stats that they see. I'm going to take the fade, but I don't mind him on Super Draft at 1.4x. My Super Draft multiplier play of the week is going to a guy named Bo Hoag. And can you tell me why?
No. So you're going to have to just tell me. I have literally no idea. I assume, we got a 1.6x. So that's good. That's definitely a good start. That's a big multiplier. But talk to me about Bo
Hoag. Hoag. If there is a true definition of a home course, it is Bo Hoag in this week at Muirfield Village. He grew up in wherever this is, Dublin, Columbus. He grew up on the course. His grandfather was either worked here or was a pro here. He lives there with his wife during the off season, I guess. So a home game, 1.6x. Talked about how much he loves the golf course. Said his game hasn't looked great the last 2 weeks. He finally feels good about it. 1.6x multiplier. I like it. I'm gonna go ahead and play it. Bo Hoag there. How about you? What's your best play over on Super Draft this week?
Yeah, I remember when they told me Webb Simpson used to sleep on the fairways at Eagles Point or whatever the hell that was. It didn't work out.
No, it didn't.
It's just so disturbing.
Eagle Point, yeah. They're not even going back to that now.
Yeah, he's
so
designed the course. Yeah. I'm going a little less. I think if you really want to push, you have Hubbard up there. You just mentioned Bo, but you've got 1.4x guys: Sam Burns, Russell Henley, Max Homa, Matthew Neesmith. These are guys you can pepper in your super draft lineups. And then, of course, you're going to round them out with whoever you like up top. But you have a multitude of options where, and Jason, you've talked about this. You get those guys through the weekend, they can do serious damage at those type of multipliers. Even with a top 20 finish, you're going to get paid off. So I would look to that area and then mix and match up top with the big boys.
Absolutely. And I think if you're looking up top, he may be high owned because of this, but Patrick Cantlay at 1.15x. I mean, that's just an automatic click for me. The fact that he's basically the same price as Jordan Spieth there. I mean, I understand the ownership's going to follow, but if you mix it and match it with some of these other guys that we just mentioned, like, Sam Burns, Russell Henley, Bo Hogg, you're going to be able to get a quality lineup that's not duplicated on SuperDraft. So that's where I leave it there. Ben, any parting words you want to just tell people one more time about the weather that they might have missed if they're coming in late, what you're doing with it, and then we can get on out of here? Yeah,
listen, it may be some storms here and there, and I wouldn't be stunned to see a weather edge formulate. I just don't think that we can accurately nail it. It reminds me of kind of the Open Championship, where we know someone's going to get the advantage, but how we could tell, who knows? So I'm playing it pretty straight up. If you want to stack your tee times, go ahead and do that. But I think we're set up pretty well, and you know what? We're going to get to see what happens, and then we get to talk about this all next week again. We get Muirfield Village Part 2 for the Memorial. We're going to get out of here. Juran Klein behind the glass, smooth as butter again, taking it down. Chat, as always, make the show great. We really appreciate it. If you have any questions, follow me and Jason on Twitter. Handles are right there. Get behind the paywall. Do it now. We want to see you guys there for next week. Good luck. Somebody go out and win that millie. We'll be back next week. Same time, same place.